let's get into it anyway. First off, my general thoughts, which this is not a review, this is just my opinion of the film, really. It's not going to be like a critical review by any means, it's just what I thought of the film. Probably going to be a little bit ranty as well, to be fair. But I'm not that annoyed. I probably will come across as quite annoyed. I'm really not that annoyed. But yeah, firstly, I just found it to be remarkably dull, all in all. To be honest, there was not much. Actually, you know what? I tell a lie. The first 30 minutes, when it's a missing person story, it's very interesting. I was well more invested in the first 30 minutes of that film than I thought I would be. Like massively overachieving for me, because I was really enjoying it. And David Gordon Green, whether you like him or not, I personally think he's got an eye for a shot. I think he knows how to shoot a film, and it looks really good. It's got like some really good atmosphere in the shots. He's got some nice tension in the scenes, in them first scenes, by the way, not the end, but in them first scenes when it's just a missing person story. Basically, the plot is 2 girls go missing. They go into the woods, do a ritual, and then go missing. 3 days later, they're found in a barn, and they can't remember what happened over them 3 days. And that's basically the story. Them opening 30 minutes were fairly strong. Like way stronger than I thought they were going to be. And say the first 10-15 minutes of the possession scene, so the subtle possession, not when it was in full swing, like the subtle possession was handled really well. It wasn't falling into all the tropes that I was fully expecting it to fall into. So in the first 40-45 minutes of that film, I was way more on board than I thought I was going to be. I was very, very interested. And then literally the moment this film takes a fucking plunge is when he goes to see Chris MacNeil, Ellen Burst. As soon as she comes on screen, it falls apart. It dies a death, mate. The quality of the film just nosedives. And that's nothing against her. She wasn't obviously going to have a massive part, and she's great as Chris MacNeil. Literally, when she comes onto the screen, it just dies a death. The film it's like watching 2 different films. Every bit of tension that was built in them first 45 minutes is removed as soon as she comes on the screen. And it's not her, it's everything that follows after. Some of the choices he makes her make is mind-blowing. Like, it completely undermines the character of Chris MacNeil in the original Exorcist. And she makes decisions that directly affect the ending of the original Exorcist. And that's another thing with David Gordon Green. I don't think he can decide if he's a fan or a filmmaker. The film opens with a shot of 2 dogs fighting, and that is obviously lifted directly from the Iraq scene. When they come back from the barn and they get medically examined to see if anything happened, basically to see if they were sexually assaulted or whatever, that's how the medical scenes happen in this film. It's even line for line. It's almost shot for shot. There's a line in it that's basically like, you won't feel pain, but it'll be uncomfortable. You'll feel cold, but it won't hurt you, basically. And that is almost line for line The Exorcist. So he's clearly lifting stuff from the original, and then as soon as he gets one of the characters from the original, he just throws the rule book out and completely pisses all over the ending of the original Exorcist, to be fair. Because in this film, Chris MacNeil has wrote a book, and Reagan has stopped talking to her and gone into hiding because she published this book, basically. And the ending of The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, is her saying to the priest, does she remember? And he says no, and she's like, okay, let's keep it that way. Because she doesn't want her to remember anything about them events. And then in this timeline, she's meant to have just fucked that off, wrote a book, published it, got famous, and her daughter stopped talking to her. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. You're either paying homage, which you have to at least respect the characters from the original if that's your choice, or don't put the shot for shot stuff in and just completely throw the rule book out like Rob Zombie did with Halloween and just bail it. Just completely, like, no, this is my story at 100%. I'm not going to play to this and this and this. And then you can do that. You can completely rewrite Chris MacNeil if that's your choice. But what you can't do is you can't lift direct shots like the massive fan that you are and then just throw it out. I just don't believe you can't have it both ways. I don't think anyway. And then once it gets past the first 15 minutes and the actual possession starts happening, it lacks so much creativity. He falls into every single trope with the possession genre. It's mad how uninteresting the possession is. There is not one moment that scared me in that possession thing. I was basically rolling my eyes throughout the whole thing, and the original Exorcist still terrifies the life out of me. I seen it on the pictures about a week ago for the 50th anniversary, and some of them possession scenes still scared the shit out of me. It was like, I've got visible reactions to them scenes because it genuinely has that effect on me, and I just don't know how he managed to lack so much creativity in them scares. Like, it's absolutely nothing happened. And the voice of the demon as well is like the Conjuring 2 Cockney. That's one of the voices they've come with, and it's just like, every choice you've made about the actual demons in this film is just dull and boring, and it lacks all creativity. I've said that a few times, but it's the most overused subgenre in horror anyway. It's already massively bloated, and you've managed to hit every trope on the way. And then just to spoil the ending, like, this is a spoiler thing. I will put in the description that it does contain spoilers, by the way. But the priest just fucks off, and then they all just decide to have a go. There's not one actual priest. Oh, no, sorry. There is an actual priest of some mad little cult church, and he's the only one who doesn't have a go. The next door neighbour is the one who performs the exorcism. Like, that's an insane choice. That's an insane choice, because the church says it's psychiatric help, basically. It's not possession. So the priest obviously can't get involved. And then the priest turns up to tell him that he can't do it. And the next door neighbour just says, God lives through me. I'll have a go. Basically, that's the line. Basically, I'll have a go. And they're just like, yeah, sound. Go ahead, yeah. And it's just a room full of people, and just they're all having a little go. Every now and then someone else will just chime in and say a word or two, and it's like, obviously this isn't going to work. Like, what are you expecting out of this? Like, oh my, honest to God, mate, it lacks all originality. It's just so dull. I haven't seen many positives, to be fair, but the ones I have seen, like, if you're a fan of the original Exorcist, I just struggle to see how you can defend that. And I'm not sitting here saying that you can't remake stuff, because Evil Dead done it really well, and I think there's plenty of good remakes. I'm not one of them people who's like, I'm quite open with a remake. I've got no issue with them remaking Halloween. I've got no issue with them continuing Scream without legacy characters. I think I probably prefer it, to be honest, because every time you seem to involve a legacy character, you just like forcing them into a storyline that probably doesn't work. Like, I think Scream 6 was very successful without Nev Campbell as Sidney. I think that's a great choice. And really, I think Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends struggles with Laurie Strode's edition. In the first one, she's okay. But the second and third, like, I just think that story struggles because of her. And I think the need to force these legacy characters into these films just damages it. If you've got a new story that involves the icons, then go for it. But you don't have to get every single legacy character into it, because it becomes cheap and it doesn't work. And literally, when Ellen Burse comes onto that screen, the film takes a nosedive. Like, it does. And then the last thing, which is a slight homage, but it's fucking outrageous, it gets to the cross scene, and you see the cross, and it's just like, oh, and he hasn't even got the balls to follow through with that. She just gets a few stabs in the eye. So it's like, again, he wants to pay his homage, but he didn't have the bollocks to go through with that either, because that's a shocking scene, obviously, and I don't think you're probably going to include that in 2023, The Exorcist. I just don't. But just don't use it. Don't pan to the cross, give the crowd a little wink, and then just turn it into some mad little slasher. Like, again, it's just not what The Exorcist is. And I just think, yeah, I don't know, it's just, there was too many nods for this not to be its own thing, but it inevitably was trying that as well. And I just don't think you can have it both ways. Like I've said, it's one or the other for me. You can't just get the crowd on your side with cheap little nods and then do what you want, because it's just not going to work. And I think that's what's happened. I think, like I say, the first 45 minutes were strong, and as soon as it became about possession, it was just dull, and exactly what you'd expect out of a modern day possession film. Like I've mentioned, it's not a genre that thrives at all. It's quite a dull premise, really, because it's just been overdone to death. And yeah, that end possession is absolutely shocking, absolutely dreadful, to be honest. But yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts are, to be fair, because I was quite mixed, but obviously quite passionately on the side of no towards the end of the film. But I genuinely say, even though I've just had a big 10-minute rant about that, I think I'd genuinely say for half of that film I was heavily on board. I was really enjoying it, and I was quite excited for where the film was going to go. And nothing could be more disappointing, because it's just generic crap, basically, for me anyway. It did nothing. The final act was just weak for me. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Let me know if I'm being too precious about The Exorcist or too harsh on this film. I don't really think you're going to convince me otherwise. But yeah, let me know what you thought anyway, because I'd love to see what actual fans think of this, because I'm quite interested. I'm going to be looking at a lot of reviews about this, because I'll struggle to see many positives there. But yeah, thanks for checking the video out anyway, and listening to me just rant about The Exorcist. But yeah, see you next time.